Hi, welcome to Thinking Out Loud Live. My name is Ricardo Zulueta, and this was made possible by Start Day One, a nonprofit foundation for mental health and suicide prevention. So the reason we're doing this is because our our mission with the nonprofit is basically to inspire people to help change their perspectives from dreaming of one day to starting day one. We have a more proactive approach in the way we help people in mental health because we feel that everyone is so reactive and they actually wait for mental health issues or suicidal tendencies. So today we have a special guest. So we're always talking to special guests with different expertise. Her name is Vivienne Hill. She's a clinical hypnotherapist, speaker, author, coach, pharmacist, and a mother of four daughters. She actually created a program called Funkhead that helps young adults lower stress and anxiety for more effective learning and better grades. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Vivienne. Hey,
Hello,
Vivienne.
good evening. Well, it's
Uh,
evening here.
yeah. How's everything going? Well,
Yeah, yes, thank you very much.
great. So I did a quick intro on you, but if you don't mind, if you could just kind of discuss a little bit more, about where you were, where you've been, your background, how you got into the mental health space, and what you're doing now.
Okay. All right, thanks. Well, going back a few years, the reason that well, not a few years, a few decades actually, the reason that I got into this in the first place was, as many people who are working in a helping capacity know, it's often when you have suffered something yourself that you feel motivated and as though you've gathered the skills in order to help people who are in a similar position to where you were. I was at boarding school. I was 16. I was in a terrible state. I was hugely anxious and depressed and stressed. I had big exams, which happened in the UK at 16, and they were coming up, and I was just feeling completely overwhelmed and without the ability to do anything about it. I had no idea what was going on with me, and nobody was there to help me. I probably didn't even ask for help, but there was no one there to help me. And so fast forward several decades, as I said, I'm the mother of four daughters. And when my third daughter was going through similar exams, I realized I could help her, because in between I had learned a whole bunch of different skills, not least of all was as a clinical hypnotherapist, training to be that. And I recognized in her the same things as I had suffered myself at the same age. So it was then that the seed for Funkhead was planted then, I think. But I realized, of course, that I could actually help her. And we worked together to ease her burden, to ease her suffering at the time. And in fact, to help you understand, to gauge how well she did, what was a 2-year course she did in 5 months.
Wow.
And got 2 A's, which
Wow.
in sciences. So I mean, she's clever. She's obviously intelligent enough, but there's something about getting rid of anxiety and building happiness, which I'll probably talk about a bit later, which really helps us to become successful. And it freed her up to find what it was that she needed. And so going on a couple of years, that was when it really started to percolate. It was obviously percolating inside during that time, but it started to really take shape. And that was when Funkhead started to be created. And so it's been going now for a few years. I've been doing other things at the same time. So it's only really been gathering momentum for the last year, probably, maybe even 6 months. But now I'm working locally. And I've only just finished a 5-week course, because that's what Funkhead usually is. Doesn't have to be like that, but it's generally 5 weeks, 5 sessions. And I've just finished working with a bunch of local teenagers. Mind you, it's on Zoom because we're all in lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And well, not in lockdown exactly, but we're social distancing. And that was wonderful. That was a group of people locally, so young people. So that's where I'm at, and I'm aiming. My general audience is youngsters, is teenagers, and young adults, young people, perhaps at university.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I am now.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro stuff. So yeah, I mean, you've had, last time we talked was a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And you didn't even bring up all the other past experiences that you, I know we talked a little bit about it. So it looks like you're focusing in more on the stress and anxiety for students, right? That's kind of what you're trying to really fix right now.
Well, it's definitely stress and anxiety because that's where it all started.
Yeah.
The need for what I'm providing has increased exponentially over the last several months because lockdown has created a sort of hotbed, if that's the right word, of anxiety and stress. For some people, it's great, but for many people, young people who are missing out on their social interactions and stuff are feeling uncertain, and they didn't know what was happening with exams and so on. So, they really have needed it. So whilst I was talking a lot about exams and improving grades, that bit has slightly been shaved off over the last few months because the need hasn't been specifically about grades, because we haven't had exams here. I don't know about the US, but
I'm not sure.
we didn't have any summer exams. And so that's caused its own problems, but nevertheless, the desire hasn't been necessarily focused on getting good grades.
Right. That's so crazy. I know you mentioned that it was Funkin. So who actually came up with that title? Was it you? Was it your daughter? How did that come about?
No, it's a friend of mine. I was saying she was helping me. I was going, I really need a name for this, because it was called 3A's Success in Schools before that, which is a bit blur.
Yeah. And kids are the one you're trying to attract.
What's that?
Especially when you're trying to attract kids to
absolutely. And that's the key. Mind you, having said that, actually the people that I attract is the parents who know their kids.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if the kids know it's a funky name, then they're going to be much more likely to want to participate. Right. So so we were just nutting out a few names. She goes, "Oh, get that funk out of your head. Funkhead," and it came up quite quickly.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think it's great because it makes sense, because if you're targeting the kids, it just lets them connect a lot quicker than some kind of professional 3A's, that's the kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually one of the reasons that, that I own Phuket clothing, which is on my laptop here, just to let people understand what's that about. So it's an apparel company. It's an inspirational brand that actually reminds people to live life more instead of complaining about it, because everyone knows to live life to the fullest, but it's just human nature to take life for granted. That's why we complain on Mondays, traffic, weather, and stuff like that. So the brand is really just a reminder more often. Every time you wear it, just tells you to stop complaining, live life more. And one of the things when you're doing inspirational stuff and motivational things, automatically it goes into the mental health arena. It goes into, we just took it a step further with suicide prevention, because I've actually had experience losing my brother to suicide. And the biggest thing that I learned from that was the perspective. People, even including me, it's really anyone, right? Whenever you get sad or depressed, it's not because of your situation, it's actually your perspective. That's why rock stars are committing suicide. In the meantime, you have homeless people struggling to make sure they stay alive. That doesn't make sense. That's so reversed. And it's really just perspective. And so, having that name, it actually ignites something in them, because the only time we say, obviously, even though it's pronounced Funkin, it persuades people to say fuck it a little bit more, because it really the only time you say is when it's only until after you've already made a decision, right? And so, because that's most important, everyone's exposed to motivational stuff every day. Like you see it every day, whether it's on Facebook videos, Instagram quotes, things like that. But until a decision is made, nothing actually changes.
Yeah.
And through my experience, like a lot of people are insane. They complain about things they do nothing about. Like I've met so many of them, like they hate their job. Like, well, are you getting a new job? No. Oh. So it's like, well, what are you expecting to change? I don't understand. If you don't change anything, like, I don't understand what's happening here. You have to change something for something to change.
Yeah.
And so, so we were doing that, but it makes sense, it's just more relatable with, you creating that title and stuff. So that's really interesting. And so how's your daughter doing now? Is she kind of implementing the things that you kind of mentioned in everyday life? Because what I'd like the audience to know, like, you don't have to have a final exam. You don't have a student, because the things that you teach, you just happen to say like, hey, kids, you're just targeting them. But I'd like the audience to really know, it's like, what do you actually teach in general, generally, like, what are you teaching them that can maybe teach our audience to handle stress better, anxiety better?
Okay. So the first question first, how's my daughter doing now?
Yeah.
She's 22 now, and she's at university, and she's not actually away at the moment because this is the summer, but she's working. Today was her day off. She's working as a waitress, and it's quite hard. And it was her day off today, and we went for a coffee, and we were sitting there, and she told me that she was starting to feel anxiety about fear and anxiety about COVID-19. She's susceptible, like everybody else, to the media and, the media, and it's all coming at her. And she said, it's not just her, everybody's feeling like this. And I said to her, okay, so let's do a session right now. And in the coffee shop, we did it. And I went through the process with her, and then it only takes a couple of seconds. I'll do that for you in a second. But I did that for her, and then I said to her afterwards, okay, so we can try again. We'll do another round of it. She goes, and then I started by saying, and welcome in all that feeling. She goes, I know what you're doing. There's nothing there now. So then we had a discussion about why was it so easy for her to release what was causing her a huge amount of fear and increasing anxiety. And she believes it's because of all the stuff I've done in the past. It's all that stuff you've been doing with me in the past.
She's actually listening and learning.
I think it's the technique, and I think it was actually her willingness to let it go. And I think that's key to change her perspective, to allow it to go. So the process, which I used with her, and actually during Funkhead, I used a whole big range of different processes. And it's not just processes either. It's a whole, what I would like to think as holistic. It's fulfilling requirements for your, that you can work out mentally. It's process, like writing something in a diary. Do this, do that. Not quite so prescriptive, but similar to that. And it's also processes, and also it touches on the woo-woo. If you like. If you like things that are out there, then it's that too. And as a scientist, I really like anything that works. I think that's what science is. I think it's anything that brings the result. And the placebo effect is a scientific, my sister-in-law is a doctor, and I was talking to her about hypnotherapy. And she goes, oh, yes, I really like the placebo effect. And I was thinking, so anyway, we won't get into that discussion, but, anything It's scientific in my book, and that can be psi, PSI, the out there type stuff, or
Right.
just logical, common sense type stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if you want me to go through the process, I'm happy to do it right here and now.
Yeah, I think we'll do it actually. But first, I know I wish I
Later,
should have gotten someone to call in and be like, "Hey, let's do this person."
I can do it with you if you like. I
Yeah.
can do it with everybody. It's just something that I just talk. I just talk, and you do
Yeah.
it in your head whilst I'm talking.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, maybe we will do that. But before we go,
Yep.
I want to go into like what you were kind of saying, right? Like with your daughter and stuff. I believe, at least is like my theory, because the last time we talked, we were discussing this where, so many organizations and everything out there are so concerned about remedying the result rather than the cause.
Right.
And that's what we try to do is like, that's just a result, but what is actually causing the problem? It's not depression. The depression is result. Like that's what you call the problem, but what
Yeah.
is causing the problem? And no one talks about that. And they always
Mm.
just say PTSD, anxiety,
Yeah.
stress. It's like, but what's causing the stress?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So we talk about that, and
Yeah.
it's great that your daughter, I think, because of your past experience with her, you've already kind of changed her perspective on,
Maybe.
on the whole mindset and all that stuff. And her willingness is, without that willingness, all the things that you taught would be completely useless if she
Yeah.
wasn't willing to.
I wouldn't like to say though that it has to be somebody who has been brought up like this. I
Yeah,
think we are all capable of releasing all sorts of stuff. And I think it's about releasing actually.
yeah,
Um,
that makes
and
sense.
I think we're capable of changing our perspective, releasing,
Yeah,
moving into a new paradigm, whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
all of us at any time.
Yeah, and what's funny is, I've learned, like listening to different people, checking them out. I've learned that's all it really takes is just shifting your perspective and making. If you look at all the gurus, motivational, it's always something happened to them in the past that finally they changed their perspective. They didn't take a magic pill. They
No.
didn't have like this magic exercise that changed them,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they changed from this one person to something else, because people don't realize we're constantly evolving. Like, at least we should be. You don't want to be the same person that you were 5 years ago. We're
Mhm.
always evolving. But I feel that people that actually have mental health issues are preventing the evolution. Trauma accelerates that evolution. Like, it changes you. Like, after a breakup, love feels a little bit different afterwards, or it should. But when you try to hold on, like, but I want to be the previous version before the trauma, though. Like, yeah, that's gone. You're a different you now. And they almost try to hold on. So that's what they do. So I love that you mentioned, like, it's because of her willingness to, like, kind of to go through, and like, yeah, because when you have willingness, she listens.
Yeah.
I've had someone try to, I've had this experience where this person was talking to me, and I said, he's like, oh, I love what you're doing. That, you're saying that it all starts with a decision, but I don't know. Everyone's different. And I'm just like, no, it always starts with a decision. He's like, yeah, but I don't know. I'm going to rehab right now, and I don't think so. And this and that, excuses. And I go, no, it always starts with a decision. Trust me. And he's just like, yeah, but. So I'm like, stop saying but. Like, it always starts with a decision. Like, why can't you do that? And he stood there for minutes and going like dilly dallying. And I'm going, I'm not telling this guy to run a marathon, read a book or anything. And I'm going like, it just starts with a decision. I didn't say that's the cure, but it has to start there. And he was like kind of delaying. And I'm going, what are you doing? And then he finally says, you're right. You're right. I'm like, I know. Like, this guy is in rehab and he hasn't even decided to get better.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time. People with PTSD, people that have anxiety, they haven't even decided to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So everything you tell them is like, yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, but it's different for me. My anxiety kicks in. It's like, no, but it still starts there. Like,
Yeah.
no, you can't argue with me about this at all. So yeah, so those are the things that kind of, and then you mentioned before the placebo effect. So most people know about the placebo effect, and it's so effective. Actually, most of the drugs today is mostly kind of based on like the the placebo effect. That's how they actually get better with the pharmaceutical stuff that they take. Like they actually believe it's going to make them better. So it actually helps. But what kills me, what people don't really talk about or mention, is the nocebo effect.
Yeah.
When a doctor says, Vivienne, I'm sorry, but you have depression, so you're going to have take these pills. And when you do that, they believe you because they trust you. You're the professional, you're the doctor, and you're telling me I have depression. Obviously, I don't even know what the hell that means, but this guy is saying me because I feel this way. Basically, they talked about all the results, but
Yeah.
never talked about how to cure it, right? And so the nocebo effect is such a huge thing that you can put on someone, and they live on going, I can't fix this. This is who
Yeah.
I am now. And,
Well, that I think that's why that idea of being given a diagnosis,
Mhm.
with whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then the person being stuck in that label,
Yeah.
is what's led me to do what I'm doing, but also
Oh, wow.
what I've started to branch into, which is, and it sort of feeds back into what you were saying, which is I've been working a lot more with parents, with mums,
Mhm.
and I've been doing a lot of past life regressions recently, with the idea that we hold the answers within us anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever way you're going to access the answer is okay, as
Yeah.
long as you get the answer, or rather
Whatever way you got.
the awareness, really, because
Yeah.
it's through the awareness, which is what your questions were doing to that guy. It's through the
Right.
awareness that brings up,
Right.
that stimulates the beginning of the healing process.
Right.
And so I think that's key. And the reason that I'm working with the mothers is partly I'm not working with the fathers, because the fathers rarely come up. It's the mothers that do. But it's because when you have a family unit tightly bound,
Yeah.
whatever's going on for one is very likely to be going on for another, or all of them.
Yeah.
And so when we get to unlock whatever it is for the mother, often we find an improvement in the children anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
heal the mother to help the children.
Yeah.
It's
That
not always the whole
makes
story.
complete sense, because to me, a lot of the mental health issues almost always go from the past, the upbringing. And not that, sometimes, like, I went through this little experience. I was doing a nonprofit foundation. We were doing an event, and I kind of said, like, yeah, a lot of it come from the past, like how they were brought up and stuff like that, whether it's low self-esteem or getting beat up, whatever it is. It's usually, a lot of it stems from the past, and you didn't build enough self-esteem, whatever it is, right? And and I always try to look for the cause, kind of like bullying, right? Everyone keeps putting, like, oh, we have to put this system in the school system to stop bullying, and I'm like, no, the parents are fighting. Like, the parents are beating the kid. Like, that's why you have a bully. Bullies don't just come out of nowhere. In fact, we all know big kids that should have been the best bullies, but they weren't. Why? So it's always someone was there was some kind of mental health issue because of something going on at home, almost all the time. Bullies just don't happen. It's the same way pit bulls bite people. It's not because pit bulls bite people for the hell of it. There's a lot of sweet pit bulls, but it's the owners, right? And so it really, by you fixing the parents, and so I love that you're doing that. It's all about that cause again. It's like, I always look for the cause, like, everyone keeps discussing the result, like, okay, bully, got it, but why is it, well, how, what caused the bully, and same thing with yours, when you're fixing them up, because a lot of it just from their stress. I've learned with just dogs, right? When you're stressed out and you're anxious, the dogs actually get anxious and they feed off that, just like that. What do you think humans do? I mean, they take it, especially when they're really young. They take in your little movements, things that you say, and they can feel it so much more than a dog would. And they grow up not knowing, how the hell did I become like this? you can hate your parents, you still end up talking like them, have the
Yeah,
same traits them. It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
I
You can
know,
try your best.
I know.
Right? It
Exactly.
always happens.
Yeah.
And I like the way you mentioned like that the answer is in all of us. It's inside us. And I've
And
told
it's
people that.
different. And it's different from mine will be different from yours.
Right. But and no matter what, yours is from you and my answer is from
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
my answer doesn't come from you. You might inspire me,
yeah,
change my perspective on it, and
yeah.
then I make that decision to go, oh, she's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I tell people like we don't help anyone. We guide them,
Yeah,
but it's really up to them no matter what, because that's why without that willingness,
yeah,
we're wasting our time. People in
yeah.
rehab centers that haven't had made the decision yet, it's
Mm,
all a waste of time. All you did was remedy the result. You took away the beer from them.
yeah,
You forced the beer away from them.
yeah,
Not that
yeah.
they don't want it anymore,
Mm,
but you haven't really remedied the cause.
yeah,
Like maybe the person is going through a divorce and needs to let go of that past,
yeah,
or
yeah.
someone that has to forgive their parents or something that happened, like that's the cause. But all you did was no more beer for you because you're
Yeah,
in the rehab
exactly.
center. So it really doesn't help. So those are the kind of things. And just by telling people this, I'm hoping it kind of ignites in them like, oh, I'm accountable. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
And that's one of the things that I tell the kids is I have like 10 guidelines.
mhm.
And one of the it might not be one of the guidelines, but it's definitely something I talk about over and over again is, and it's probably around the time that I'm talking about how they work out their own needs, their individual needs.
Yeah,
And so that they get to okay. They don't have to be fantastic, but if they get to okay, they're
yeah,
okay on so many different levels. But
yeah, yeah,
it's about take 100% responsibility for meeting your own needs. Now, it might be that you can't do all of them yourself, but it's
right,
your responsibility to ask somebody for them to
right,
be met and have a
right.
conversation around that. Now, these are teenagers. Generally, they're well, of course, the ones that I've just been working with are actually quite anxious, but at home in their own environments, they're
Yeah,
probably quite vocal.
yeah,
It's not like they're going to be so anxious at home that they can't ask for those things to be their needs to be met. So
yeah,
that's one of the things that I talk about. Look, you have, and I've talked about this to my kids till they're, oh, but I said, you have rights. Yeah, sure you do, because kids will come back from school going, we've got rights,
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yes, you have. You also, you've got two R's. One is the right, and the other is the responsibility. And so
Yeah,
there's always a counterbalance. If you have
yeah,
a right, what's the responsibility that goes with that right? And this is what
yeah,
I'm teaching the kids so that they understand they have rights and responsibilities,
yeah,
and 100% responsibility is theirs for meeting their own needs. Don't ask your mum to look after things for you. Don't ask,
yeah. Oh,
don't ask
perfect.
for reminders. Don't
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
See, and those things, those traits that you can teach, and people don't understand, like, when they're children, it's like you're training them so that afterwards they are ready to go with whatever challenges, obstacles
Yeah,
that they face. And that's our job, right? And that's why I kind of don't like the idea of giving, these like awards to everyone. When you don't teach
right.
a kid how to feel lost, they're
Mm.
going to have a hard time when they graduate from home and leave. They're going
Yeah.
to go there and be like, wait, where's my
Wasn't it
award?
fantastic?
Like, I thought everyone gets an award. What happened? I submitted my resume. Why didn't I get the job? It's like, because not everyone gets the job. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And one
so
of the things that I did, I was going to say a few months ago, but it's a bit more than that, probably the end of
yeah.
last year, was I ran a challenge for parents. I ran a 5-day
Oh,
challenge
I love it
for
already.
parents.
Love it already.
And the day one of the challenge was, and it was all mums.
Yeah.
Um, I should say moms, shouldn't I? It was
I like your accent, so we're good.
um, they they were required to tell their children. These are parents whose kids had been anxious or stressed, or were not communicating with them, or that the connection was broken, or
Mhm.
there was something that was off about the relationship, or
Yeah.
or something wasn't right, and the parents wanted to, well, the mums wanted to improve it. So day one, I said, here's a biggie for you, and you might be really uncomfortable, probably triggered by it, but give it a go anyway if you can. I told them to remove themselves. So I said to them, you're probably the irritant in your children's lives. These are teenagers. You cause a lot of this friction by constantly asking them questions. They don't want to be asked questions. Why be so nosy? Just let them come to you. So it was a bit like, speak when you're spoken to. Like the old
right.
And I said, tell them you love them dearly. Right. And for this week, just for this week, so the pressure's off, you see. If you say just for, the pressure.
Yeah, right.
Just for this week, I'm not going to nag you about anything. I'm not going to tell you, but the rights, responsibilities, it means that I won't be reminding you of anything. I won't be picking up after you. I'm not bringing your dishes downstairs from your bedroom. I'm not blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'm not. And so the child was left going, what? But understanding during that week that they had to step up to the plate. Suddenly they were because kids are always asking for independence, and the parents are saying, yeah, when you are blah, blah, blah. And parents, let them have it. Give it back. Step back. Remove yourself as the irritant from their life. You're the sand in the oyster.
Yeah, that's great.
So allow them to go, whoa. Then they have thinking space and feeling space. Right. Then they're not going to be followed around the house. Well, what happened? Don't tell me what happened. Did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And what I found was some of them by the end, and I had lots of other exercises throughout the 5 days.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I had several mums telling me that their kids had told them, these are children who had been grumpy and rude and non-commit grunting boys.
Grunting,
And I had found they'd said that these kids were telling them they loved them. They were bringing their clothes down to wash. They were bringing their dishes down to wash. They were
love it.
And they were going, what? Because I told the mothers that if the children did then want to speak to them, they had to pay them 100% attention. Yeah. So when they were being spoken to, that's it. That's all you're listening to at the moment. That's what you're doing. Yeah. And it was fascinating. I mean, it was a bit of awesome. It was a bit of trial for me. It was I was playing around with the ideas that I knew would probably work. But it turned out that it did.
I love it. So it's little things like that. So a lot of people, actually, when I was talking about before, right, when I was at that nonprofit foundation event, and, someone was mentioning, like, because it was actually parents that was coming to the event who had recently lost someone to suicide, their kid. And it's like, yeah, but how can you say that to the parents? Like, when that happens, no one does it on purpose. Mm-hmm. No one does things like, for example, what you're saying, like the parents love the kids, but when you keep giving and give, the kids that are spoiled, it's not because the parents hate them.
No.
But it's doing the wrong things. And people don't understand, like, kids actually like discipline. Yeah. Like they actually need some kind of structure. What's that?
Guidelines or
like, for example, there's this thing, it was like a movie, right? This kid went over this other kid's house and he was showing him around. He was a rich kid. And he was just like, wow, this is so cool. Your kids, your parents don't care what you do and let you do anything you want. And he's like, yeah. Basically, the parents don't care. And the kids are like, wow, that's so awesome. And he's just like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, do whatever I want. And so parents don't realize, like, that's not actually providing a healthy mindset for them. And one thing that I caught when you were saying something before about asking questions and stuff like that, someone said, Vivienne, can you be my mom? Funny one, Renee. But so anyway, the questions, because we know how we said before, it's internal. It comes from inside you, right? All the answers is inside you. No one can do it. And you can ask every guru. No one gave them something. It's it came out of them. They shifted their perspective, and all of a sudden, all your decisions follow that. Then along the way, your perspectives are always doing this, trying to shift to the negative when you hit trauma or hit something else. And that's why you need inspiration. And that's where you need the tools to help you kind of maintain that perspective, But it was the questions that kind of drive out the answers. Because when you tell someone what to do, it almost never works.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Because it's probably not, whatever.
Yeah, some of them. Someone going through a breakup. Oh, whatever with him. Let's go out. Like, there's. But if you start talking to him, like, so do you think he was the one for you even after he cheated? No. So what would make you kind of release that? When you ask questions and it comes from them, all of a sudden they're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So the answers are actually there. So I like that you're saying, like, you got to ask them questions. Like,
definitely questions.
You can't just leave them and go, like, and you're telling them too, like, tell them you love them and stuff like that. So one of the things that we have mentioned in our theme color for our nonprofit foundation is actually teal.
Right.
And it stands for time, effort, attention, and love. And people seem to think that, well, I don't see any symptoms of depression or suicidal tendencies. It's like you have to do that teal like all the time.
Yeah.
It's not when they're finally depressed and they're like, oh, I better say I love you. Shoot. Like you're supposed to be doing this now. It's just like exercise in the mind, right? Like you're supposed to be receiving this, and it's tough when you don't get this. And this is one of the ways that we're hoping people kind of help in the suicide prevention. You have to provide teal, because teal is like the vegetables, the way vegetables help prevent diabetes, right? Like you don't wait for symptoms of diabetes to start eating vegetables, or you don't start exercising when you're 500 pounds. You do it now, whether you're in shape or not, right? Same thing with your mental health, and same thing for your family, friends. Like you got to provide teal for them to now. It's not something you wait for. So there's the things. Then it's funny, like they're just surprised, like, oh my god, they're saying I love you now. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to just do that all the time. Like, not, and it's something ongoing. It's something ongoing. So that's cool that you do that. What does she say? The questions always felt accusatory to me. What do you think about that?
I guess it depends what the questions were, and also who was asking the questions and the way that they were asking the questions. I would say if questions are asked in an environment where you have built rapport with the person who's asking the questions, you won't feel them as accusatory. It depends what the questions are, really. And also the other thing is, that's probably the beginning of the process. If you're feeling that stuff around being asked questions, that's stuff around whatever's going on. And so that's emotion or stuff to be let go of. Which is what I would use processes on.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like the initial questions is how you figure out what the cause is. And then the later questions is more like, all right, how do we find the solution here? The questions become more solution mindset type of questions, like, how are we going to remedy this? Like, it's basically the now what? I get all the problems. I get what happened to you. I understand that this made you feel this way and all that stuff. Well, now we got to go to now what? What are we doing about it now? How are you going to accomplish this?
And as a clinical hypnotherapist, that tool of hypnosis is great to remove. So what Renee's talking about is she's in a particular mindset which is associated with perhaps an elevated level of stress or anxiety. During hypnosis, if you're asking those questions in hypnosis, it would feel very, very different.
Yeah.
Questions, because there's there's an element of judgment. There's an element of whatever it is that's coming up wouldn't be there. Certainly not to the same degree under hypnosis. So that's another useful tool.
Yeah. I wonder, hey, Renee, are you still on? Can you reply or comment again? Maybe you can do your process with her.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Renee, can you just kind of respond and say, yes, I'm still here? Would you like to kind of join us on this? And I'd like her to kind of
But actually, if I just run through it, nobody actually even needs to talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's really, really super simple.
Okay, yeah, let's get it started. It's already, we got 20 minutes to go. So yeah, let's talk about it.
All right, well, it only takes about a minute.
Oh, what? Really? Oh, I'm waiting till the end.
I've got a couple of tools in my toolkit that I can share.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
The first one that I was going to talk about before is called the Sedona method, which people might have heard of anyway.
Sedona method, okay.
The Sedona method, yeah, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. It was created by Lester Levinson, I think, at first, maybe even in the 50s. But in the 70s, a man called Hale Dwoskin first learned it and then took over for Lester when he retired or passed away. And Hale Dwoskin is still doing it now, and it's fantastic. So what I would say is there are four things in the Sedona method. The first is that you welcome in whatever it is. So for Renee, it might be that feeling that she gets when people ask her those questions. It's not even the questions themselves. It's just that feeling of being accused of something. So there's probably a mixture of guilt and shame and maybe even of being a victim in that. I'm not accusing you of this, Renee. It's just an idea.
To be clear.
So I don't know, but that's a possibility. So there's going to be a whole load of stuff probably tied up in that feeling that they're accusatory. So just from that perspective, welcome it all in. So welcome it in. In fact, should we do this now?
Okay. I'm okay. Like, make it happen. Right. Get her in. I'll do it.
So whoever's watching, and you too, Ricardo, something that doesn't feel great, and it can be really anything. It can be something that's bugging you at the moment. It might be a little thing. It might be a huge thing. It might, whatever it is. You don't even have to tell me what it is. Just
so
anything
that is
and you don't
me out.
Sorry,
something that's stressing me out. Is that what you're?
So or anything, anything that feels negative at the moment.
Some kind of negative feeling. Okay. Let me think about that. Okay.
You must be in a good way. Most people can go like that. Bang.
I know. I was actually going like, well, what? Well, because I've been training it. Like, I learned this thing, like, always try to look at the gains instead of the gap.
Yeah.
Something by this, someone recommended. So I've been kind of training myself, look at the gains, all the good things that's been happening all week. So I'm just like, what the hell has been bad? Now I actually put effort in, which is awesome. But,
that's great.
But yeah, I could,
something that irritates you, something that you would like to, maybe a habit that you would like to get rid of, or road rage, anything.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
So really anything at all.
Yeah, got it.
Have you got something?
I think so. I mean, it's related to, like, I work on other startups, and so sometimes I just get all like, so annoying, these
perfect
users,
that's it. Okay. That feeling, welcome that in. So allow that to be there. Allow it to be in your head and your body, or wherever it is.
Thought, embrace it.
Yeah, just let it in. Welcome it in. Thoughts, don't hang on too much to the thoughts, but allow them to pass around. They might be in your head, or feelings in your body. Allow them to be there. That's one. Welcome. Now, just for now, could you let that go? Now you answer inside. It can be a yes or a no, or even a
I mean, I've learned to let it go, but
okay.
sometimes it comes back, you know. So
Whatever it is, just whatever the answer is,
yeah,
that's right.
okay.
And would you let that go? And when?
And when? Oh, wow.
We'll do that again.
Yeah.
Completely internally.
You bring it
Welcome.
all in. Freaking hate
Welcome.
this. Bring in all the negative feelings. Okay, I'm focusing on one right now. Definitely.
Right,
Always
so
knowing when this happens. Got it.
as best you can, could you let that go?
Gotcha. I
Would
could.
you?
I would.
When?
right fucking now.
Right. So that's the four things. The first
Yeah,
is welcome. The second is
that's
could you let
cool.
that go? The third is would you? And the fourth is when. And there's a really important little tweak
I
there,
love
which
the
is
when. I love the when.
yeah, right.
I
Because the
love the when.
assumption
It's
is you will,
almost
right?
useless without the when. Because
Because
when
the assumption, it's an assumption that you
yeah,
will be. But when you say could you, and this is like people do this, it's brilliant to do on your own. You don't need anybody else to
yeah,
do it.
right.
I was teaching my mentee this today. She was saying I couldn't do this. I said, yes, here you go. And this is it.
Yeah,
And so
I love it.
if you were to say just for now, or as best you can, what you're doing is you're releasing yourself from the burden of must do it now and forever,
Mhm.
because we white knuckle things in life, and by
Yeah.
doing that we're just holding on to them tighter, even if we
Yeah,
want
right.
to get
It's
rid of it.
actually worse.
Oh,
It's actually worse.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
right.
just bringing it in,
Right.
and by bringing it in we're holding on to it really tightly, and
Right. It's
so
actually doing reverse when you're trying to heal. You've made it worse for yourself, kind of thing, by trying to.
yeah, yeah,
Right. It's kind of like,
trying trying almost suggests failure in the
yeah,
future, and it also suggests a sort of uh,
that's
a
that's
really
funny.
hard job.
Yeah, and it's funny. I read this book, Personality Isn't Permanent, and one of the things it kind of like mentioned on there, it's actually so much worse off for you, so much worse off for you when you don't commit 100%, and you kind of create more problems because you think you still have that option. It's kind of
Yeah,
like people who get married, but they think they can still fuck around.
yeah,
And it's like, just accept that you're married and go 100%. You'd be so much more happier than going, look what I'm missing out. Like, just commit. I'm telling you, you're going to be happier. Like, when you think you have all these options all the time and you think you have this opportunity and you're, oh, the opportunity cost and you're missing out, it's like you're making yourself miserable because you're in the gap of what you're
yeah,
missing out on, rather than like what you've gained, a beautiful
yeah.
wife that loves you and this and that. And it's just like, yeah, you're missing the point, man. you know?
And that really links in as well with what I was saying before about the 100% responsibility.
Yeah. Yep. I completely 100% agree. And
If
it's
you
so much
teach that
better.
to teenagers, they're sorted for life, aren't they?
Right. Right. Especially when you give them the habit of doing that.
And what I talk about habit, that's part of Funkhead. And
Ah, okay. Now, perfect. Because, and our, one of our, like our wristbands, right? Actually, it used to say, actually, this is one of the old ones. It used to say live life and take risks. And like I mentioned before, it's like, well, that's just a suggestion.
yeah,
And I'm just like, I don't know if they're gonna do it though. It's just I hope you do. Like I hope you do it. I hope it reminds you to. But then I changed it because of what I've learned when I was having a really bad day, and I was talking to my wife, and as soon as she said, "You'll be all right. You're awesome," everything went back in, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm pissed off again. What happened? What? Only because I'm aware of it, because of what I do for a living and all
yeah,
this. And
yeah,
I'm just like, that shouldn't have. I know she meant well. She didn't want me to not, feel like crap or anything. But like, why did I feel bad? And it's because I felt like she didn't listen to me,
yeah,
right? And so it didn't come from me. I was being told, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Like it didn't come from me. And
Yeah.
the funny part is, as I was talking about it, I was feeling better and better and better. And then she did that and it went right back in. And I went,
Yeah.
that's so weird. And so
Yeah.
I told her, don't do that again. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's better if you just hug me, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
hug me and let me go. And then I said, and then as I talked to her about this, actually, we can even take this a step further. The next step is actually ask me, well, now what? So whenever someone is really complaining about things, because now it signifies that I listened to everything you said. So
Mm.
what are we going to do about it now? But I can't tell you what to do. I'm going to say,
What action are you going to take?
yeah. So I changed the thing to say, now what?
Yeah, I like
So
that.
that when they look at it, you're pissed off and this and that. And it's, all right, well, now what? Because it changes your mindset from going to why me? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Basically excuses, the world of excuses, and the less accountability, the better for me.
Yeah.
And when you put that now what, it puts them in that accountability, right? Like, well, it's up to you. So what are you going to do kind of thing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then after you answer the now what and the other side, so that takes care of live life, without regret, the now
Yeah.
what part. And then I change, the next question is, why not?
Yeah.
Now that you have the solutions, now that you figure out, like, now what? Well, I guess I got to get a new job because this, job is killing me or whatever. All right, so why not?
Yeah.
And that's the next step. So instead of live life, take risks, I'm hoping the questions actually bring it out of them, the
Yeah.
answers out of them on their
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a life coaching tactic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Constantly asking questions so that people can uh, can look inwards
yeah,
basically and
yeah,
decide their own. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And that's basically, and that's all we really do is, and I was just talking to someone else about this, and all we're really trying to do is shift your perspective so that it can finally, because once you change that, all of a sudden your decisions follow.
Yeah.
That's all the books
Yeah.
does. That's all these inspirational gurus do, is
Yeah.
hopefully it just shifts you.
At
Because
the
what's that?
I was just going to say, at the beginning of lockdown, when there was so much uncertainty around, people were so unsure about what was happening. Kids weren't going to school. They didn't know
Yeah,
whether they were having exams and so on and so forth. And that uncertainty was across the board. Adults, children, everybody.
yeah.
They
Oh,
just didn't know
definitely,
what was happening.
definitely.
So I had a friend and I were doing a few workshops for people around this idea of uncertainty and what they could do. And my answer to that was, which is similar to what you're talking about,
Yeah,
is if you're not sure what's going on, segregate what's upsetting you or what's coming up for you into two
yeah,
groups, into two camps. One is the things that I have control over, and the
yeah,
other one is things I don't have control over.
yeah,
The things you
yeah.
don't have control over,
Right,
we'll leave that aside for a minute. And the ones you do have control over, do an action plan per item. What
right.
am I going to do about it so that I now do have control over it and I'm actioning it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
there's nothing like action, planned action, conscious action to get you out of feeling
right.
in the rubbish in the moment.
Yeah, and that's something I've been telling more people too. Like, when you need to get out of your rut or
Yeah,
a bad situation, I believe it all starts with, like, going back to the roots, right? Like, your sense of working on your sense of purpose is probably one of the first things I would recommend. Like, because if you don't know why you're doing something and where you're going, it's almost like, well, it's kind of like going for a drive and not knowing where you're driving to, and then going, I'm lost. Where are you going? Like, where are you going? You don't even know. So of course you're lost. Any turn you make, it's always going to be the wrong turn because you don't know where you're going. So, but I learned that, like, it comes to purpose, and then the perspectives, inspiration can change your perspective. After perspective is the only time you can make a decision. You will never make that decision unless the perspective is in line.
yeah.
And once you make that decision, that's the only time motivation actually comes in handy.
Mm.
because you can't motivate over here.
Mm.
You haven't decided. Until
Yeah.
you decide, there's nothing to motivate you on.
Yeah.
It's like, unless I change your perspective, and then you make the decision, and now I can motivate you. Like, and that's how it
Yeah.
kind of works. And I only learned that kind of afterwards. Like, oh, so that's how it works. Because, like you were saying before, getting out of the rut is intentional.
Yeah.
It doesn't come at you like, I don't know what to do for my career. Have you thought about it? Like,
Yeah.
have you really thought about it? Because passion doesn't just come from nowhere.
Yeah.
Passion is after the decision.
Yeah.
Always. Like, I can't tell I won't know if I'm going to be passionate about being a rock star if I've never played an instrument before, like, or sang, or I'm not.
Exactly.
You're not going to have the passion for surfing if you never surfed before,
Take action.
right? It's all based on
Start.
that. What's that?
Start.
Yeah, that's why I said start day one. I'm not
Exactly.
saying you're gonna love it tomorrow, but if you
Yeah.
start day one, day
Yeah.
two, really you have to be intentional. If you really want to get better, if you really want to know, well, put effort in.
Yeah.
Put effort in. And
Yeah.
like you said before, the willingness, that's where it kind of starts. But until you do that, it's like wishful thinking. You're just
Yeah.
waiting, and all you're doing is reacting. All that stuff, suicide prevention, mental health, all this stuff is proactive. Anything preventative,
So with my program, I always get them to set an intention at the beginning.
Love it.
They must set an intention. Well, I mean, I ask them the question and guide them to set the intention.
Yeah.
Whether they do or not, I'm not going to make them. And what I found was that one of the youngsters on the course that I finished yesterday had, as per the process that we go through in Funkhead, he has changed his sleeping habits. And as a consequence, his mother said that he was feeling better. He said, and he wasn't speaking at the beginning, by the way. They didn't like turning their videos on. This is 5 1-hour sessions. And by sessions 4 and 5, he was talking to me. So no videos, no talking at the beginning. His mum said that he was eating better. And he told me, because he was quite freely talking to me, he said he was feeling happier. And his mum said it was lovely to see a smile on his face. But he was so anxious to start with. And a lot of that was to do with sleep. So,
someone has mentioned that before too. Like, he's talked about like how important sleep is.
Biggest bang for buck is sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's the only time we actually feel ourselves, when we're in that what do you call it? Damn it. It's the opposite of stress response. It's the I lost it. I don't know why I'm losing it.
You mean there's a sympathetic system?
Yeah, exactly. It's the
parasympathetic or
right. Relaxation response. There you go.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it's basically, unless you're in relaxation response, your body can't actually heal itself. Like, cortisol is just flowing through every time you're stressed out. But the only way to reverse that, not because you stopped cortisol, but you have to be in relaxation response. That means like being in a nice sleep. That's why people meditate and this stuff. And that's the only time you actually heal yourself. And I got that from, what's her name? Shoot. She wrote Mind Over Medicine. And basically, it talks about like how your mindset can really mess you up physically. And, that's why.
And the other way around.
Yeah. And that's why I was talking about the placebo effect, how that can actually help. Just by thinking the right way. And so we discussed that about, the stress response, how much it really hurts you. That's why it's the only reason stress is so bad for you, because cortisol is just pumping like crazy. And your brain thinks, wait, where's the lion? What lion?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? You're going like, how am I going to pay my bills in 5 years? Like, it's way far. There's no lion right now, but your cortisol is pumping. And so the only way to reverse what the cortisol did and all that damage is through relaxation response. And that's why sleep is good. That's why meditation is good and all that stuff.
I
Have
give
you-
them all hypnosis tracks.
What's that?
I teach them self-hypnosis on Funkhead.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Tell me another good story before we end.
Tell you
One of
another
your
good story.
clients, yeah, something that someone that changed along the sessions and stuff. I love it. I love this story.
Okay, so there was a young girl who was 17. She came to me for one-on-one work. The last one that I've just finished has been group work.
Yeah.
But I also do one-on-one. And this girl was 17 and she was depressed. She was definitely depressed. So in keeping with, what I felt was the right thing to do, I suggested to her parents that maybe they take her to the doctor, and
Oh, wow.
because I felt that she needed some sort of evaluation.
It's a
and,
kind of.
and I was also covering my ass, to be fair,
Mhm.
but I thought that it was necessary for me to say that to them,
Yeah.
to give them the option to take that action if they wanted to, but the girl wasn't interested.
Okay.
So they didn't, and she started with me. Now, as I said, I run it over a 5-week usually, so it's subsequent weeks for 1 hour a week, and I was seeing her face to face. But this is just as effective online, and I've done lots online. But this just happened to be one girl. She was depressed right at the beginning and crying, sitting on my sofa, just crying. She would get a few words out and then she would start to cry again. So she was obviously in some distress. And as we went through the program, she was still feeling like that for a couple of weeks, but she had to have a break where she went off to London. I'm in Devon, so I'm some distance away from London. And she went on a school trip and had to go on public transport, which is crowded tubes, crowded trains, that sort of stuff. It was crowded galleries. And she wasn't looking forward to it at all. But she told me at the end, when I asked her at the end, when she was smiling, by the way, and we'd said, wow, you did that. She said, yeah, I did that. I was able to do that. And I said, so what is it now? Now you're smiling at me, which is totally different from where you were to start.
Yeah, right.
What is it that's different? She said, I know how my brain works and how to manage it and how to feel. And I guarantee that I can get you from high anxiety to low anxiety in 1 minute through a technique that I do. And
awesome.
And I said that to her. So how about that 1 minute? Does it take 1 minute? She said, no. I went, She said, it takes 2 minutes. And then I have to rest for a minute. Went, yes, that's a win.
That's awesome. That's a win. That's a win right there.
And she was good for a while. I haven't seen her for a long time, but I did see her like months later, and she was just so pleased.
Wow. I think I want to bring you back on when school is going.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what the hell's happening on this side. We're still kind of debating. Everyone's just angry nowadays. Especially in the US, there's a lot of anger happening here. A lot of mental health issues happening, because of everything going on, the stress.
With both parents and children. It's not just it's everybody, isn't it?
Exactly. Everyone's going through it. And with the school system now, teachers, are they going to go back? They're fighting I don't want to go back. We shouldn't. And so there's this back and forth. But what the hell are the kids going to do? And so there's
been a decision here made in the last few days to say that they can't do it with primary school, with junior school kids, but high school kids will be wearing masks.
Oh, okay. So that's what they're going to do. I don't think there's been a decision on our side yet. I don't know what they decided. But I do want to put on here, this was happening while we were talking, because I know she put on there that, and then she said divorcing parents living together. The way it's
okay. So she was stuck in the hothouse.
Yeah. And
right.
Sent a scenario just to my mom, and then she wrote, letting go of childhood events.
Okay.
Divorcing, I became the go-between. Oh, good call. That's how good Vivienne is, ladies and gentlemen. You called it before I even got to this comment.
Yeah.
So you already
being
called
the only one between divorced parents in one house. No, that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's one thing. With my parents, they were always kind of fighting and stuff like that, and just like, oh my god, just divorce. We understand.
Yeah,
It would be so much
yeah,
better. Like,
yeah, yeah.
ah,
And it's interesting because parents often stay together in spite of wanting to divorce because they think it's for the kids.
exactly.
Going,
It's so
oh my
ironic.
God, will you split up now?
It's so ironic, right? That's
Yeah,
so true. We're doing it for the kids, but it's like,
yeah,
oh,
it's
you're
rubbish.
doing more damage,
Yeah. Yeah,
way
well, because
more damage.
the kids would prefer two happy parents in separate houses
As long
than
as it's
two
happy,
warring parents together.
that's it. They prefer happy over together all
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
all day. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Well, Vivian, thank you so much for your time
You're
and all
welcome. It was lovely.
the
It was fun.
education. Remind me again the questions. So, whatever I'm feeling negative, bring it in, embrace it,
Welcome it.
welcome it,
Welcome.
put it in, and then you ask yourself,
Just for now, could I let that go?
just for now, could I let it go? That's important to just for now, huh?
Yeah.
Just for now,
And
could I let that
next
go?
one is
Would
would
I
I
let it go?
and
And
when?
then, and when. The best part is when. That's the best because you just put accountability just like that.
Yeah.
When I say, I don't know, next week, all right.
But it's also okay to say no, by the way, to the questions. You don't have to say
Oh,
yes.
well,
Like no is fine because
okay.
what's happening is that your subconscious, once you're making it aware of the possibility it could, it will.
Yeah.
And even if it's saying to you, no,
Yes.
no, it still does.
Wow.
And also, when you're answering those questions, it's possible that you say no to could, but yes to would, and now to when, because you
Oh,
want to get
okay.
rid of it, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, you want
That's
to get
true.
rid of it, but you believe you can't. So you just go through it a few times, and in the end, that no for could becomes a yes.
That's funny.
And
Is
think
that
of
something you keep asking yourself after you ask yourself this, and then you go through that again?
yeah,
Like
go through the whole process again and
ask
again.
yourself again, or like
Because it's layers. It's every time,
it gets more to the yes, more to the yes.
and every time you ask it, you release a tiny bit or the whole lot.
Yeah.
My daughter did today, which surprised the hell out of me, which is
So it's
great. But
okay. So it could be in the beginning, no, no, no. And then it might be yes, no, no.
it could.
And then yes, yes, no, and then it becomes yes, yes, yes.
It could be. It could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might be that it's just you repeat the same thing every time, but it could be yes, 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 or no, yes, sorry, yes, yes, now, or no, yes, now, whatever combination it is.
Yeah.
But each time you'll just be taking layers of onions.
Yeah.
You can take a thick layer of onion or that tiny, tiny membrane. And if you keep on peeling that
That one member.
membrane, and then a layer, and then you'll get down to nothing in the end.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's the
Yeah. No
idea.
matter what. No matter
It's
what.
clearing the dead wood out of the forest.
Gotcha. Oh, that's awesome. Well, actually, just to show you this, she was actually stoked that you got it.
Oh, great. Well done.
So that was great. He's like, yeah. How did she know? She's a guru.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. She's probably got a
Yeah.
bit to process, but she's got the way to do it now, hasn't she?
Yeah, right. And again, so every time when I'm talking to the audience and stuff, everything that you learned from Vivienne today, it's great and everything. But unless you make a decision about something that she mentioned and something that we talked about, nothing is going to change. Absolutely nothing. So don't think like, well, that didn't help. Did you implement it? Did you execute? Did you make the decision to do it? Did you make the decision that you're going to get rid of it? Because until you do that, I'm telling you, it doesn't make any difference. Like you could watch all the inspirational movies and shows and quotes that you want. It's not going to do anything. Trust me. So that's what I definitely always emphasize at the end of this thing. Thank you so much, Vivienne. It was enjoyable. It was such a pleasure. And
Yeah.
I think I want to bring you back when school is in session and everyone's stressing out over here, just because it might help, especially the next time we're focusing more on the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd like to focus more on the parents.
Okay, sure.
what they're going through and how the hell do we, maybe can we help them? Like,
Yeah.
what do they need to do? And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a big thing in the next, couple of months when school is
Yeah.
in session. So yeah, so I'm going to send you something there and get you
Okay,
back.
cool.
So I hope everyone enjoyed our guest for today. Thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
until next time, we'll
Okay.
see you here.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Bye.